All right. I believe we are live. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. New series coming at you. We're going to talk a bit of boxing, especially with a lot of exciting announcements in the boxing world this week. I said, you know what? What better time? Not a ton of high level MMA. We got some lower level stuff, some CFFC stuff going on this week, and also XFC. So it's time to talk about some boxing, give some love to the sport. Episode 1 here of This Week in Boxing. The first thing that we have to talk about today, actually, before we get into it, make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. Let's talk about this first, though. We have to. Tyson Fury is not fighting Anthony Joshua. That fight is off the table, unfortunately. I was actually super excited to see that matchup. I thought it was a dream fight. It was a huge fight for British boxing. 2 world champions, unification bout. Unfortunately, Deontay Wilder won the Aberration Clause. So that means he is going to get this fight against Tyson Fury. It's already official. It's already signed. I believe Allegiant Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fight is on the 24th of July. Tyson Fury meets Deontay Wilder once again. If you've looked at Deontay Wilder's social media recently or ever heard anything, if you've been following the boxing news, you know he's training with Malik Scott, former opponent of his, but I do believe they were still friends even at that time. He fired his old guys, that whole team, Breland and the rest of them, all gone. He's coming out with a new coach. And a new coach, wouldn't you want a tune-up match first, at least in my opinion? I feel like he could look like a genius here if he goes out there and destroys Tyson Fury. He wins the clause, he wins the trilogy bout, and then they'd probably have to have a fourth one because of their 1-0-1 against one another with Fury leading. I feel like, though, this could be a recipe for disaster because let's say Tyson Fury does what he did the last time. He boxes Deontay Wilder's face off and completely smashes him. What now? What now? Because at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder then realistically 3 times losing to Fury. Sure, the first fight, they did call it a draw, but on most people's scorecards, they had Fury leading clearly, besides obviously the official judges, Wilder getting that near knockout. So it shows he has the punching power to hurt Fury. I still believe he always will, but can he land the punch? That's the difference. Tyson Fury is going to come in with a very similar game plan. I think he's going to come in here, overwhelm Wilder. He knows Wilder is not the most technical boxer. If he puts it on him with pressure and technique, Wilder gets overwhelmed. He's a one-shot guy. He has a lot of power in his punches. He's lost rounds before to lesser guys against Luis Ortiz. Ortiz had him hurt in both of their fights, and then Wilder finds a way to win by knockout. Tyson Fury is just a different animal. Wilder, 2-inch reach disadvantage, 2-inch height disadvantage, boxing skill disadvantage, but he does have the raw punching power and athleticism advantage without a shine of a doubt. Still, I find Tyson Fury to just be the kryptonite for Deontay Wilder. I think he's going to beat him again. That's 2-0-1 against Wilder. I don't think we'll see a 4th fight ever. I think this really hurts Deontay Wilder's career to lose this fight. He might look like a genius if he comes out there and he beats him, and then he earns that fight maybe against Anthony Joshua for the world unification, but I don't think that's the case, especially with a new trainer. We've seen how that has looked for fighters in the past. They come in with new coaches. They tend to look worse, not better, especially early on. I am going to be riding with with Tyson Fury to beat Deontay Wilder again, and I think he does it inside of 8 rounds. He's going to put the pace and pressure on him. I would love to see Wilder come out and look way better, but I just think stylistically it's a hellish matchup, and Tyson Fury's going to take him down once again. I'm super excited to see the fight. I do know purse-wise, 60-40 split, favor of Fury. Makes sense. I mean, he is the champion. He did win the last fight. He's coming in with the upper hand, but Wilder gets his opportunity to avenge the defeat against the only man to give him any blemishes on the record, the draw and the loss there in Tyson the Gypsy King Fury. Should be an excellent fight on July 24th. Definitely an exciting pay-per-view main event, even though it's not the fight between Joshua and Fury that I think a lot of hardcore fans would have wanted. We're still seeing excellent action between these two, so I still am pumped to see it. Let's get to the next segment of the day. Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence Jr. It is official for August 21st. Manny Pacquiao will challenge for Errol Spence WBC and IBF World Welterweight title. It's crazy to see Pacquiao still at it, still in the game, still at the highest level. Beats Keith Thurman in the last one. Granted, I believe it's been, about 2 years since then? Let's quickly pull up the record and find out exactly. Wow, yeah, it'll be over 2 years since then. That is not necessarily a great thing when you're over the age of 40. 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao going on 43. At the time of the fight, he'll be getting real close to that 43 mark. He takes on the 31-year-old Errol Spence Jr., who's sensational. I mean, he's beating good guys. He's in action-packed fights all the time. Errol Spence is a guy that likes the action. He can definitely eat a shot. Southpaw versus Southpaw, which is another tricky feat. But you look at the guys he's beaten recently. Sean Porter, competitive fight. Porter's an animal. Beat Mikey Garcia and Danny Garcia. And now he fights Manny Pacquiao. Even at 42, almost 43, I still think Pacquiao's going to be competitive at moments throughout this fight. For Errol Spence's career, the best outcome would be for him to get a knockout win over Manny Pacquiao. Be the guy to stop him, similar to what Juan Manuel Marquez did. Be that spectacle, that one guy that maybe you set up Errol Spence Jr. fighting against Floyd Mayweather somehow. With the amount of money fights he's doing, I wouldn't be shocked if maybe somebody big could draw him back into the pro ranks. But that's a whole nother subject, and we're not talking about the Floyd Mayweather fight at this moment. No way. We're talking about Pacquiao and Spence. I think Errol Spence does lean out to beat Manny Pacquiao, especially the older Pacquiao taking 2 years off. I think Errol Spence finds a way to win, but I won't be shocked if it goes 12 rounds. Errol Spence maybe wins 7-5. I'd like to see it like a more clear-cut, dominant performance. Southpaw versus Southpaw could play tricky, but it could also allow Spence to put Pacquiao down. A knockout for Spence, in my opinion, skyrockets his stock. Skyrockets it. A competitive win is still good, and you're still beating a legend in Manny Pacquiao, but it just makes you wonder, Pacquiao 5-6 years ago, who would have won that fight? I'm riding Errol Spence to win it, though, but I hope he can do it impressively. I have a feeling it's going to be extremely competitive, and either way, beating Pacquiao is always going to be an impressive feat, but Errol Spence has so many physical advantages. He's younger. He should go out there and dominate Pacquiao, but I don't necessarily think he will. I'm picking him 7-5, unanimous decision. I pick Errol Spence to win the fight against Manny Pacquiao. Definitely going to be competitive action. And now we're talking about the fight that is coming up this weekend. And it's a really exciting championship matchup. WBC World Lightweight title on the line. Jorge Linares gave Vasily Lomachenko a very difficult fight. Unfortunately, he did run into a tough Mexican that knocked him out in the first round recently. If you look at Linares' career, he has a few first-round knockouts to like lesser-known Mexican fighters. It's just been an unlucky feat that he's ran into a few times throughout his career. It was Pablo Cesar Cano there. The Lomachenko fight, he went 10. I don't think this fight's going around. I think that Devin Haney will have a much more difficult time than this crazy fight here with Cano. We can't sleep on Linares because he has a few shots that he ends up taking, and he ends up going down against high-level guys. You look at the style of Haney, very slick. Hand low, lead hand low. He'll rip the jab, he'll rip the body, and he sets up his shots really nicely on the inside. I love how he fights on the inside. He really put it on Yuriorkis Gamboa in the last one. Granted, not the best Gamboa ever, but still a good performance. I feel like his reflexes, too, especially just being 22 years of age versus a 35-year-old Jorge Linares, all in the advantage. Obviously, on paper, you can see how this fight is leaning, but there's things Linares does that I do like. I mean, Linares is a pressure-forward style fighter. He gets inside. He mixes it up. He does sometimes stand a little bit square, and I think Haney will take advantage, landing beautiful straight shots, potentially hurting him with some down the line. Linares coming off a knockout win in the last fight. That short straight right hand was still a money punch, and he will always have a puncher's chance if Haney's coming in close. Haney does like to fight on the inside and pressure. Watch out for Haney's left hook here. I really feel like this is a tricky one. Like, I could see Haney going out there and putting on a 12-round display of work because he's won a fair amount of fights by decision. But Jorge Linares is going to make it action-packed. He's going to make it extremely competitive and fun to watch throughout. I cannot wait to see this fight, honestly. Super pumped for this weekend's boxing event, especially I'll be able to fully tune in because we have no UFC this weekend. I'm going to be watching Devin Haney in action versus Jorge Linares. He's a hot champion right now. He's on the rise in the sport, maybe a potential superstar at this rate. He's fighting Jorge Linares, who's no joke, always a difficult fight and a fun fight, absolutely. Devin Haney stops him in 9 rounds here. That's my prediction for this fight. Devin Haney, 9-round knockout. Linares is going to come to fight, and for that reason, I do think he ends up getting stopped here by Devin Haney because I believe Linares wants that win bad. He really does. He's going to kill for this win, and he has a huge opportunity to become a world champion here versus a very difficult fight in Devin Haney. Can't wait to see this matchup, honestly. I think this is excellent matchmaking because it allows Haney to get a notable name in Linares, but not really the most difficult threat for him, but also continue to build his name at just 22. The future is very bright for the 25-0 Devin Haney. He moves to 26-0 by knockout this weekend. The odds are minus 1,200 to plus 700. Very widespread. Actually, let me pull up some boxing odds because I do think it's worth checking out what we can maybe find if there's any value in any bets here. All right, let's see where it is at. Devin Haney, Linares. There's 88 props available, so we have some. Under 1.5, extremely unlikely. I think the only one that might have some value there, under 9.5, is minus 137. It's not terrible. Fight doesn't go the distance is minus 200. Wow, so it's not expected to. I like the under 9.5 one at minus 137 if you have to do it, but I really am not going to highly advise anybody to be throwing down on this round-to-round props. I mean, it's a tricky game to play. Haney by stoppage is minus 175. Not worth it to put money down by any means. If you Mystic Mac it on Haney on the round, you could put it 7-12 for Haney at plus 200. That might be the one. That's some value. If you're looking to play him by stoppage, because Linares is going to come to fight, and I do believe Linares gets stopped by Devin Haney here, who I just believe is the superior fighter at this point, especially with Linares being 35. Excellent fight here in the main event this weekend. And there's also another subject we have to talk about, and it's where does Anthony Joshua go? He was supposed to fight against the winner, supposed to fight against Tyson Fury, the winner last time when Deontay Wilder and him fought. That was supposed to be winner versus Joshua eventually. No, we're not getting that matchup because of the Wilder aberration clause. Unfortunate, because they started building it up already, and it was talked about being official for, I believe, August or September. And I thought it was going to be an absolute amazing spectacle and event. Unfortunately, we don't get it. So we still need to deliver a high-level event for Anthony Joshua. I don't think you give him a no name, no rank style fighter. You got to give him someone real. There's a couple of ways you can go here, and I'm only talking about top 10 fighters by the Ring magazine rankings, which I do believe are the most easy to sort through. So if you are newer to the boxing game, you want to just see who's kind of the general best fighters in the world, not with all the freaking sanctioning bodies. Ring magazine's the one to come to. The Ring TV rankings right here. You got Usyk, who's definitely possibly going to be a challenger. It's definitely possible. They're talking about it. He was supposed to be the challenger if there wasn't going to be the Fury fight. I think that's an intriguing matchup, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun because Usyk, dominant cruiserweight, amazing at cruiserweight, really, has come up and win fights at heavyweight, but wasn't superbly impressive against Chisora, but still impressive enough. Fighting against Josh will be a very difficult feat, though, because of the size difference. I'll lean that they're going to skip on Usyk, or at least I would prefer potentially to skip the Usyk fight just simply because he doesn't have that same name value for Anthony Joshua as not even Ruiz, though. I mean, Ruiz has the value of name as a fan. He has a win over Joshua. Maybe he wants to silence the critics, this being Anthony Joshua, on the Ruiz fight. Let's fight him again and let's stop him this time. If Andy Ruiz Jr. gets stopped by Joshua this time out, it officially kills the argument for that fight being like, oh, maybe Ruiz could still knock him out. He was just out of shape. I think Ruiz Jr. versus Joshua definitely sells. The vulnerabilities we saw for Ruiz in that Areola fight are slightly concerning. I could see Joshua stopping him this time around, especially if Areola does try to rush inside a bit, or we could also see another 12 rounds of Joshua just outboxing him cleanly. Would prefer to see a stoppage. That's a potential matchup, but also I think for the UK, and I hope we can do this in the UK, you do Dillian White. It's got to be Dillian White versus Joshua. I think this is a huge matchup. White gets to win over Povetkin by knockout in the last one. He's been on a pretty considerably good streak. I mean, besides losing to Joshua, the one loss to Povetkin, he's won every other fight since then. He's winning by knockout. He's winning impressively as of late. Has looked really good. Has looked in good shape. I know there's been some drug test failures or whatnot, but boxing tends to have those things happen at times, as does all combat sports. I feel like Anthony Joshua, Dillian White is the fight to make because it sells the most to me as a competitive matchup between two countrymen against one another. I think you maybe do that in England somehow. Let's do it this summer. Let's do Dillian White versus Anthony Joshua. That's the fight I want to see. We've seen the Ruiz fight twice. We're going to eventually probably run into the Usyk fight, but I don't think Usyk should take it just yet. I think maybe you do Usyk versus Joseph Parker. Why not give him somebody else first and make him really work his way up towards fighting against Anthony Joshua? Dillian White, Anthony Joshua. Early prediction for that one is going to be Anthony Joshua beating Dillian White for a second time. I think he could do it by knockout again because Dillian White at times, he overextends himself. He leaves that chin out just a bit. Could get caught, could be in trouble. So for me, early lean, Anthony Joshua beats Dillian White. Overall, some very intriguing stuff in the boxing world happening for us. I'm super excited. I'm glad I got to talk about some of the upcoming events with you guys here, some early predictions and some reactions to these fights. Overall, though, definitely the most exciting fight of the summer for me is still going to be Tyson Fury returning to action, one of the kings of combat sports at this point. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you have not already. Let me know what you guys think about this brand new series. Just starting it off, bringing some boxing to the game as well, not just MMA, covering the best sport on the planet, MMA. And MMA, I guess boxing does fall under the category, and it's an excellent one. So I appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Smash that like button and subscribe if you guys are new here. Thank you all so much for watching. You can check out my social media too, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I will see you all in the next video.